Hello, hello, hello. The mask is back, and we have a underrated card. Not too underrated. People are actually coming around to respecting the name value that is on the card, at least on the maybe top 8 or so fights. But people are now coming around to the idea that this is actually a good card, and I don't think it's going to be a fantastic, amazing, spectacular, anything like that, but I think it's going to be a banger. Maybe like a 7, 8 out of 10. Pretty good, I think it will be. And we're going to find out, starting with Marquel Medros and Mark Joinski. Now, Mark Joinski, I normally just go off of, oh, this guy's proven in the UFC, but Mark Joinski actually has a lot of submissions, and he has some okay records, guys, that he's beaten, and he has a really good fight schedule. All of his last 5 fights that you could see here, which are W's, he has within like a year and 7 months. Whereas if you look at Marco Medros, it's like a year and 4 months. He's had 2 fights. So I think his schedule is really good. I love his activity and his willingness to take this on short notice. Whereas Marco Medros against Austin Hubbard, who I don't actually rate that highly, he got taken down, I think, fairly often. And I remember he got taken down. This is one of those fights I haven't watched too recently, like this week, but I have watched it fairly recently, and I do remember him getting taken down at least a couple times. Now, I don't know if it was like 10 takedowns or 2, but he got taken down fairly consistently, I would say, and he got held down enough for it to be a split decision. So it's not great. And when you see a guy that actually goes for submissions against guys that are like 4-1, 4-1, 2 in a row, he had when he was only, I believe, 5-6-0 or 4-5-0 for Mark Choinsky. When he can do that against those guys, I feel like against a guy like Micro Medros who hasn't shown a good takedown defense game, I feel like he's going to get the sub in the second round. So I'm going to say he's going to have a really hard first round getting down Micro Medros, but then in the second round, he just goes for it. Maybe like a flurry of punches, and then gets the takedown, and then maybe like an arm triangle, maybe because he actually has a couple of those. I think his last ones, armbar. I mean, I was thinking armbar, but arm triangle is like kind of similar. Let's be honest. Maybe like armbar then. We'll go with armbar because I also think with Macro Medros having long arms and kind of a slim physique for the weight class, I think that he can kind of easily transition from positions to get to that armbar. So I'm going to say armbar actually. And then Quinlan Salkild versus Yanal Ashmouz. This one's actually quite easy, I feel. I mean, Yanal Ashmouz, he's pretty good, don't get me wrong, and he has really good power in his hands. He also has a tight, compact, explosive build, kind of like a Chad Mendez, for example, a Josh Emmett, another better example, I think. But Quinlan Salkild, I feel like as boxing is concerned, I know it's close here as far as power is concerned, but technique, you got to give to Quillen Salkild. I mean, he hasn't shown a whole lot in his UFC career thus far, but what he has shown is that he has a similar power to Yanal Ashmouz, being able to get whatever his name is, what's his Anshul Jubilee. Yeah, I wasn't gonna get that. I'm sorry. I just feel like he's fallen into obscurity now. But getting him out of there early, in the first punch of the fight, I think it was, and then seeing as he actually was able to, do like short work of these fighters, like I think it's gonna be quite easy, honestly. Like Yanal Ishmouz, like I said, he has good boxing, but or power at least. But Quinlan Salkild has all the advantages in the actual technique of it. He has like, I feel he has faster hands as well. He shoots more straight down the pipe. And, the height and reach is obviously going to help him tremendously here as well. So I know lots of people are picking decision, but I don't know, man. I think if both guys are super powerful and they're both swinging pretty fast, powerful shots, one of them is going to have to go down sooner than later. So I'm going to go with I'm going to say round 3 KO. I'm going to say it's going to be pretty brutal because they're both pretty beaten up at this point. They're both kind of tit for tat in moments. And then in the second round at the late end, it's kind of like a Drew Dober versus John Silva where um, Quillan Salkild finds a big shot, which spells the end for Yanel Ashmouz, and then in the third round he finishes the job quite brutally, except unlike Drew Dober versus John Silva, he actually finishes the job. And then Ju Sang Yu versus Jeka Sergi. Ju Sang Yu, I haven't actually seen any of his fights. I should, but from what I'm hearing, okay, he has really good well-roundedness. I mean, that seems to be a really good thing. I mean, or a really, what's the word I'm looking for? A really talked about thing with South Korean prospects at the moment. And then you have Jeka Serki, who really just throws wildly. He's kind of like a somehow worse Michael Chandler. Okay, that's rude. I shouldn't be dissing Michael Chandler, comparing him to Jeka Serki, but he kind of throws in a similar, like, just caution through the winds sort of sense. You know, he Michael Chandler obviously sets things up to the body better, and he has more explosive shots. But Jeka Serki also kind of has like just explosive wild shots where it's like if he catches you, it could be over. But I mean, I think that Yu is probably gonna just take him down and KO him. I'm gonna say with some kind of a cut in the second round, an elbow. You know what? I'm gonna say first round. I think that with such a highly touted prospect with a minus 600 and most people picking him by KO, I think the safe bet is round one KO. I mean, especially when I don't know enough to say much. So I'm just gonna trust with what everyone else is going with there. As far as KO, first round probably most of them are picking. And then Ariana Lipski da Silva versus Kong Wang. I'm actually going to go with Ariana Lipski da Silva. I think that this is a really good underdog, especially considering that she missed weight by 6 pounds. I mean, hello? I know that most people made their predictions before that, but I mean, we should talk about that. That is absolutely an important part to talk about here. The fact that she missed weight by 6 pounds, she's clearly, and she didn't tell Kong Wang's camp to, make it a catch weight bout. She's clearly trying to use this as a method to her advantage here to get takedowns, to try and get submissions possibly. But I feel like this is going to be something like that one girl, that other Brazilian girl that was trying to just stall against uh, Tisha Pennington. I think that she's going to try and stall against the fence and win a boring 29-28 where, yes, on damage you can argue Kong Wang, absolutely, but Ariana Lipski da Silva is going to get like 4 minutes of control time in one round and probably 3.5 in another round, something like that. And there's one round in the 3.5 minutes, one where, she actually got outstruck, so you could say that Kong Wang should have gotten it, but it's going to be a split decision going da Silva's way. I just feel like the weight matters here, and she's going to probably just show a weight differential. I think that's what's going to happen. And then Chaos Williams versus Andreas Gustafsson. I think this is pretty obvious. Gustafsson, I watched his last fight in the Contender Series, I'm pretty sure it was. And yeah, he actually, his clinch game is nasty, but getting to that clinch, especially when you have Chaos Williams, who does have one-shot KO power, is really, really dangerous and deadly. And I know Chaos Williams is kind of average as far as his technique is concerned. Like, he was actually kind of getting outstruck by the Bonfirm brother, Gabriel Bonfirm, I think it was, yeah. And then it led to a submission. I think he actually dropped him, which led to the submission. It could have been like a takedown, but either way, Chaos Williams, look, he's not the best striker, but I feel like the style that Andreas Gustafsson goes for is I'm gonna just overwhelm you with haymakers and knees and elbows and all that, and then get you to the fence and do more of that even more viciously when you don't have the space to hurt me back. And Chaos Williams, I don't think he's gonna let him do that. I mean, if it gets there, of course Andreas Gustafsson should have the advantage. Absolutely. If I know that he's able to get Williams to the fence, I'm going with Andreas Gustafsson, but I don't know that he can do that. So I'm gonna go with Chaos Williams by first round KO. Similar to the last guy, Yu, right? Or no, Ju Sang Yu is actually 2 fights down. Yeah, so I'm going to go with first round KO. And then Sergey Spivak versus Waldo Cortez Acosta. Similar situation, I think. submission could be here all day, and he actually does look like 2 inches taller. So I don't know why he's 6'3" and Cortez Acosta 6'4". At the weigh-ins, he looked quite a little bit bigger. So, I think that Sergey Spivak, and also in the weight, I know that Cortez Acosta is actually weighing more, but Sergey Spivak, he if he gets you down and he keeps you there, it's a wrap. I mean, you look at his fight against Taito Ivasa, that was nasty, and I understand that was a younger Taito Ivasa, but honestly, has Taito Ivasa really improved his grappling? I don't know if I could say that because, Marcin Tybura actually just dismantled him as well in the first round, so I don't know. But either way, Sergey Spivak, he was nasty with those elbows, raining down left, right, beautiful punches from the top, and he just got full mount pretty much and just destroyed Taito Ivasa. And he has shown moments of success like that against other guys as well. Now, he's been losing to the best guys, but I mean, I don't know. I think Walter Cortez Acosta is going to show a new wrinkle to his game here as far as the takedown defense is concerned, because the boxing we know he has over Sergey Spivak, and I'm not impressed with Sergey's boxing. He looked okay a little bit in moments against Jailton Almeida, but that's Jailton Almeida, and both of them kind of made each other look kind of decent on the striking. Like I'm pretty sure he wobbled a Jailton Almeida wobbled Sergey Spivak with the 1-2, which made him look impressive. People are like, oh, he has hands now. No, if you actually look at that, and if you look at all the striking exchanges between them two, it's just that they're both like kind of mediocre strikers with, or for heavyweight at least I should say. They're terrible if you compare them to the rest of the weight classes in UFC, but they're mediocre in the striking with a really good ground game. And since they were forced to strike for the most part in that fight, whenever they got back up, or not forced to strike, but they both didn't want to deal with each other's grappling, and so when they were forced to stand up, they both looked kind of decent. But Walter Cortez Acosta, his boxing has been looking insane. Hopefully, I'll predict the Walter Cortez Acosta fight right for once. So let's go with actually a second round KO. I think he's gonna have to deal with some adversity with some shots early on. But I think that, especially with the weight advantage, he's going to be able to stuff most of the takedowns and survive if he gets, some bad compromised position on the ground. I think he's going to survive to the second, and from there, Sergey won't have the same shots, the same energy. Second round. Azamat Murzakanov versus Brandon Ribeiro. Now, the only thing I'm worried about here is the length and the reach of Brandon Ribeiro against Azamat Murzakanov, because Azamat, he has shown against these taller guys, yes, he can get in, but it's harder than these guys that are the same height as him, like Nizuchukwi, Tafon Nizuchukwi, yeah. It's harder for him to get into the range of these taller, longer, lengthier guys, and he looked the part, Ribeiro, in the weigh-ins. He really did. He looked massive, and Azamat Murzakanov, he definitely doesn't show the presence that he has in the cage, but he makes up for that with his insane speed. He has really good combinations as well. It's not just the speed. He actually has like really good angles, finding the accurate shots that he needs to. It is mostly the speed, but his accurate shots and his in and out movement is really good. Sometimes he even goes with the head kicks and then, spinning attacks, knees. He's very versatile, and Brandon Ribeiro, I'm mostly just worried about his long, rangy 1-2 or the jab or, the overhand. Just basically, when they're at range, I worry for Azamat. Otherwise, he has shown against Dustin Jacoby to handle these quite tall, rangy kickboxers. So I'm going to go with the first round KO for Azamat, especially since it's short notice. And then Bruno Silva versus Joshua Van. I'm actually going to go with Joshua Van. Wow, who could have guessed? And I'm going to go with a decision. Pretty obvious, most people are picking him by decision. And this is one of the few fights where I can't really think about, am I going to try and pick something different from the rest of the UFC fans? I mean, look, Bruno Silva, Joshua Van has been uppercut, rocked by Charles Jourdain, who is longer, rangier than a Bruno Silva, but Bruno Silva has actually found the uppercut opening against a Cody Durden. So there are certain things that you could look at in this fight and say, oh, well, look at that. He got him there and that happened there. And, you could say, oh, well, it's a realistic, prediction for that reason. But honestly, I feel like throughout the majority of this fight, Bruno Silva is not going to have he's not going to have the breathing room to find those openings because Cody Durden is pretty much in the boxing every way lower level than Joshua Van. And Cody Durden was getting pieced up and dominated in the second and third rounds against Joshua Van. Like, Cody Durden had nothing for him. So, honestly, the fact that Bruno Silva was getting pieced up by a pretty much lesser version of Joshua Van on the feet, I think that's a bad look. And Bruno Silva, he's got some power and really good submissions, but against a Cody Durden and a Ray Saruya, for example, Joshua Van just outdid them in the ground like takedown defense. He was calm, collected. Now he did give kind of, sort of, in moments, give his back a little bit to get up, but I think that he's going to be changing that a little bit, risking control time to not give those kinds of opportunities for Bruno Silva on the ground. So I'm going to say a 30-27 for Joshua Van, maybe 129-28. I don't think he's going to get the sub, and I don't think he's going to get the Hail Mary uppercut like he did against Joshua Van. I think it was against Cody Durden. I think it was an uppercut. It might have been a hook, but I'm pretty sure it was a well-timed uppercut when Cody Durden was kind of leaning his head down a little bit on a exit from a combo. I'm pretty sure that's how it happened. And Vicente Luque versus Kevin Holland. I'm going to go with Kevin Holland by second round KO. And my reason for this is I think that Vicente Luque, thing about him is he doesn't move his head, and against JDM for Kevin Holland, he was going up against a much better technical boxer. I would even argue in Muay Thai. And Vicente Luque, he doesn't move his head, like I said. And then JDM, it's like a completely different game where he has a much better high guard, much better head movement. JDM actually went to a split decision, which I think that it was a clear 29-28 for JDM in that fight, but Holland won a round off of JDM, who is the champ, and a much better stand-up fighter than a Vicente Luque. Luque only has the ground game in this fight as a realistic opportunity to win. And I understand that he took down RDA numerous times in his fight against Luque's fight against RDA, but the difference is, like, RDA is a 155er. Holland honestly could make as a decently sized middleweight at moments in his career. Now, granted, welterweight has always been his weight class. That's always been where he has done better. But he has made middleweight numerous times, and he's looked quite good in certain fights in his career as middleweight. He got to top 10 in middleweight. And so I understand that the weight class has been much better, and he was at the top 10 in a much more shallow middleweight division at that time. But my point still stands. Like, the height, reach, and size is insane in this fight. It just is. And so I don't think that he's going to be taking Kevin Holland down, and if he does, it's not going to be for long. I think that he showed against a Gunnar Nelson, who is kind of who replicates a lot of what RDA, or not RDA, but Rainer de Ridder was trying to do against Holland, except for welterweight, was actually, impressive in that fight against Gunnar Nelson. He was actually just kind of getting out of positions quite well, and then when he actually stayed in those positions, he was staying in those positions in a safe way. He wasn't giving up too many opportunities, and when he got stuck in a certain position, he actually showed some really good toughness to get out of those squeezes or survive those squeezes until Gunnar's arms or legs or whatever else was fatiguing in him. So I'm going to say round 2 KO. I don't see Vicente Luque getting to those positions that Gunnar Nelson did, especially with the, the slower overall, you know, I guess boxing movement, footwork. Yes, he had a good Darce against Demba Garimbo, but I just don't think he'll get those entries to get to the ground. And ultimately, I think Kevin Holland has the jiu-jitsu game enough to survive there. I mean, he showed against guys that aren't Hamza Chimaev, Rainier de Ritter, that he's perfectly capable, especially at welterweight. I mean, Michael Chiesa, for crying out loud, he was actually, Michael Chiesa's a strong guy, and he was actually surviving quite well those exchanges in those moments. He ended up darsing him, and so I don't know, man. And it was quick in the first round too. So I think that Kevin Holland, he's on a resurgence a little bit here. Second round KO. Mario Batista, Pachi Mix. Do I go with the submission or do I go with the decision? I'm going with the decision. Now, I think that Mario Batista is underrated, and I actually feel kind of bad for him seeing in that go-karting section in the UFC embedded, his family, like he seems like quite a nice, respectful guy. And I feel bad with all the booze and whatever else he's getting, but he's just trying to do what he has to do to win at the end of the day. And obviously, it's boring. I rewatched his fight against Jose Aldo. It was boring, but what can you do? Ultimately, I think that he is actually a really good competitor, a really good fighter, and honestly, he is quite, I would say, around the same level as a Magomed Magomedov, who Pachimix just beat by split decision in his last fight. And Pachimix, listen, he has really nasty submissions, but I don't think that Mario Batista is small enough or weak enough in the grappling to let him just manhandle him to the ground and then get the submission. I don't think that Mario Bautista is weak in the grappling. I don't. And I think that he's more than capable of surviving any such attempts to get to submissions, to get to guillotines, rear naked chokes from Patchy Mix. I think these are things that Patchy Mix is going to go for, but he's going to be forced to deal with the striking. And when we saw him strike against Magomed Magomedov, who does similar things to Mario Bautista on the feet, tries to keep things simple, just basic body kicks, leg kicks, 1-2s for the most part, overhand, fast overhands. I think that he gets kind of, aside from his really nice jab and his lead hook, he gets kind of basic, frozen. He doesn't really do too much, Patchy Mix. So honestly, I think he has overrated hands. His ground game is insane, but I think Mario Bautista is going to have the takedown defense enough to keep things at the very least in his, maybe not in his ballpark, because I think Patchy Mix will not get stalled up against the fence in this fight. I think he's much better to get off the fence than the Jose Aldo, but I think that Mario Bautista will be able to survive any such attempt at getting things to the ground. So I'm going to say a decision, 29-28, maybe split. And then Kelvin Gastelum versus Joe Pyfer. Be Joe Pyfer, okay? Maybe don't, because he's a little bit cringe and he has a fake hairline. I gotta say it, and just gotta keep it real. I'm gonna go with a first round submission. Bet you didn't see that coming. Yeah, I think that he has really, really, really underrated ground game, especially since he's working with Sean Brady. Everybody's been saying that, I know, but what people haven't been talking about as much is, he got a beautiful blast double leg, lifted him in the air against Abdul Al-Zak Al-Hassan, I believe his name is. Abdul Razak Al-Hassan, yeah. He got a beautiful, I think it was an arm triangle. Let me just double check that one more time. Yeah, and I think that he could get the same thing here. I'm going to go with a rear naked choke, actually, but that would be my second pick, like an arm triangle. I think that he's going to actually drop him, Kelvin Gastelum, maybe when he's trying to go for his blitz. Kelvin Gastelum's fast, so he could actually hurt Joe Pyfer on the feet, and then he goes for the takedown, but I think he's going to drop Kelvin Gastelum on a bad entry. And then he gets like an overhand or just a straight right on Kelvin Gastelum. Tries to follow up with ground and pound, doesn't quite get the chance to pass it, then decides to pass the legs, go for the arm triangle. Maybe Kelvin Gastelum turtles, and then he goes for the rear naked choke when Kelvin Gastelum doesn't quite get the chance to get up from turtling back up to his knees. And, it's over in the first round. I'm going to say late in the first round, maybe like 9 seconds left in the round, something like that. I think he has really underrated ground game, and his power is nasty if he connects. Setups aren't all there, but pretty nasty. Juliana Pena versus Kayla Harrison. I'm gonna go with another submission, honestly, and I'm gonna go with a second round submission for Kayla Harrison. I know Weasel predicted this, so it's not like super. Oh my gosh, wow! What are these predictions on this card? I've had some good underdog picks earlier on this card, but the main card I'm kind of going with the general favorites. Except for what you'll see in the main event, which is going to break my heart to say. But look, I gotta be real. I gotta say what I see, and I'm gonna get to that in a second. But Kayla Harrison, I mean, look, she does things by the book. She has insane physique. I mean, she could be compared to certain male fighters' physiques in the her relative weight class. In comparison to some of their fighters, it's insane. Juliana Pena, on the other hand, just does not have anywhere near the same physique as a Kayla Harrison. This has to matter when going into women's MMA fights. It usually does, and especially when I think that she also does things by the book with her striking better than Juliana Pena. I think that her grit is the formula to get to a Kayla Harrison. If you are down on the scorecards and she's gassing, but I don't think that it's going to get to that point. I don't think that it's going to get to the championship rounds. Juliana Pena is a gritty boxer, and she actually tidied things up against I think Raquel Pennington. Yeah, it actually was quite impressive to see. She tidied things up. She kept things by the book more. The 1-2 was pretty nice, but I think Kayla Harrison has better kicks, and it's pretty even on the feet with the boxing with the hands. I think that Kayla Harrison keeps things more straight, more fundamental, maybe not as aggressive, but when she gets to the ground, it certainly gets aggressive. I think that she's gonna maybe midway through the round after trying to feel out Juliana Pena on the feet. I think that midway through the round, she's gonna shoot a beautiful takedown, maybe a double leg, maybe even lifts Juliana in the air. For a ride similar to Henry Cejudo versus Merab, the GOAT. And I think that she's gonna maybe slam her, or either way, just get a double leg, get her on the ground, get her elbowed, slicing her up. We know that she has some scar tissue, Juliana, from the Amanda Nunes rematch, and I think that it's gonna be too much for her. The pain. She's gonna try to, try to get up. I'm gonna say probably maybe an arm triangle as well. I know I've been saying that for a few of these predictions, but I'm gonna say probably rear naked choke for Joe Pyfer and a arm triangle or arm bar for Kayla Harrison when Juliana Pena tries to switch positions. Kayla Harrison tricks her into thinking that, oh, I can actually escape, and then, oh no, she caught my arm. It's too late, and then she tries to pry at the arm. She tries to, maybe turtle, maybe not turtle, maybe she won't be able to, but maybe she'll try to turn from the armbar. She's gonna try and peel Kayla Harrison from trying to get the armbar, but Kayla Harrison does it even better because she's stronger. She's fought at a higher weight class. She's fought at featherweight most of her career, as far as I'm concerned or aware. Maybe she's had some bantamweight fights earlier in her career, much earlier, but as far as recently, Kayla Harrison has been a featherweight, and so I think that if push comes to shove, if it's a strength competition in the submissions, Kayla Harrison can get the Kimura. She can get the arm triangle, the arm bar. She can get the crucifix position, landing brutal elbows from top. I think that she could get any of those positions, but I'm gonna say like an arm bar or an arm triangle, probably arm triangle. And Merab Dvalishvili versus Sean O'Malley 2, the GOAT. Okay, he is the machine for a reason, and he's the GOAT for a reason, and I hope he wins, and I feel so bad to do this, because every single championship fight from Rob, I've picked against him, but I have to go with Sean here, okay? When the last fight in Sean O'Malley's, Merab and Sean O'Malley's, in their last fight, when in the 5th round, Sean O'Malley is the one that is teeping and hurting Merab to the stomach. I understand that Merab's going to be training defense on that, and that I've heard that Aljamain has said that he's going to teach Merab, and they're teaching Merab to improve in that area, in that department. I understand that that is true. But Sean O'Malley, with his finesse and his snappiness of those kicks and the punches, being able to hit with the kicks, the punches, everything in such calculated fashion, in the end of the punches, the end of the kicks. Like, he uses his reach so good, and he has such a long reach for the division and height. I understand that the strength is going to be a problem here, and I hope that it is, because I'd love to see another masterclass from Merab. But man, I gotta be honest here. When both of their last fights between each other were teeps up the middle to the body for Sean O'Malley in the 5th round, winning Sean O'Malley the round, and Merab losing the round, I see this as around 6, around 7, 8, 9, 10. And when we're talking about that, who was winning? Who was figuring out the other opponent? Merab, yes, was getting the better of Sean O'Malley. He won 4 rounds to 1. And similarly against Umar, he won clearly 3-2. Anyone who says that's a robbery is a complete imbecile. I'm so sick of people thinking that Umar won round 3. That is just, you don't know the sport. You didn't watch that fight. You didn't watch the 3rd round. And it's a clear 3-2. Sean O'Malley versus Merab was a clear 4-1. But again, we look back at what did we see last from these two guys. Yes, Merab was winning the first 4 rounds clearly. But what did we see in the 5th? It was a completely different story. If we talk about if there was a round 6, Merab might have lost by a... and I know that they didn't sign the contract for 6 rounds, but my point still stands, okay? If there was a 6th round, Merab wasn't going to learn how to defend those teep kicks. He wasn't going to learn not overnight, but over the course of a 5-minute corner. Oh, you need to sweep at those teep kicks. You need to sweep those away. The corner would not have helped Merab. He needs to what's the word I'm looking for? He needs to sort of condition his brain to know that those teeps are coming. And I understand that he was kind of trying to sweep away at those teeps in the Umar fight. We did see in the 5th round when he was taunting him. Umar went for one of those, and Merab kind of sweeped at it. But that's not Sean. Sean does not have the Sean does not have the grappling. Umar does not have the striking. Like, Sean is not the grappler that Umar is, but Umar is not the striker that Sean is. Umar's a fantastic striker, but Sean is the best striker in the division, hands down. He made Petr Yan shoot for his life, and Merab, listen, he was doing good on the feet, but it will not play out like that this time. This time, Merab is acting like, oh my gosh, Sean will beat me. That is something that he is sounding like in this fight, or in the lead up to this. Now, yes, he kind of locked in the press conference saying, "Oh yeah, now that I thought you were a humble guy, now I'm gonna smash you." Yes, he was talking like that in the actual press conference. But for all of this, he's like trying to sort of motivate himself. He's trying to say, "Oh well, this is a different fight." And the 1st round and the 3rd round, I mean, clearly still Merab's, but the 1st round and the 3rd round were closer rounds. If Sean can just make some basic adjustments, obviously the strength differential will always be there, but if he could just make some simple adjustments, he can replicate the Aljamain Sterling performance to a T pretty much, especially with Merab having a different mentality, especially with him saying he's going to try and get a finish, trying to KO him, trying to stand with Sean and saying, oh, he's going to stuff all my takedowns. What is that? You were literally controlling him for almost the entire round in round 2 and 4. Why are you acting like he's just going to stuff all your takedowns? You should not be saying that. You should not be going into this with that mentality. You should be trying to just set up your takedowns beautifully and just get those takedowns. Go for the win. It doesn't matter if everyone's booing you. They did that to Aljo. You don't want that to happen, but I think it will, okay? I'm going to say a late 2nd round KO. It was early against Aljamain Sterling, but I'm going to say it's going to play out differently. I'm going to say Merab kind of it's like a 50-50 in the first round, kind of sort of similar to Aljamain Sterling versus Sean O'Malley, except in different ways. It's not going to be there's no strikes landed. It's going to be Merab is trying to put the pressure on, and he actually kind of surprises Sean O'Malley with the fact that he's just kind of winging shots out there, and he's actually hitting the target at moments. And because he's trying to actually get the crowd on his side. He's trying to make this exciting for himself, motivate himself. So he's like, I'm going to actually try and test my striking with this guy. And then Sean O'Malley, eventually, when he sees that, okay, wait, this is actually kind of simple for me compared to other strikers I've faced in my career. I'm going to find these openings. He does. And he cracks Merab with some beautiful straight rights, beautiful jabs, beautiful 1-2s. And it's going to be ultimately like, oh, okay, I think you could give that to Sean because he was getting the better of him in the end of the round, but Merab was kind of just, outworking Sean O'Malley at the beginning, so it's like kind of 50-50, but you'd probably lean to Sean. And then in the second round, it's actually like Merab decides, okay, I'm going to shoot here. But then it gets kind of like, oh, wait a minute, he's actually sprawling on this shot quite well, kind of like Nasruddin Imavov, and he's lifting the arms up. He's like, getting the underhooks. He's lifting the both arms of Merab up. He's not making he's nullifying the shot, and he's making it just be a clinch fest. It's going to be like Israel Adesanya versus Nasruddin Imavov in that sense. Like really good takedown defense, pushing against the fence with your feet, and then lifting the arms up with all your strength, and then Merab is gonna realize, okay, wait a minute, I'm dealing with someone much more tough than I anticipated, and then he kind of backs away a little bit. He's like, okay, what can I do now to affect him? And then he decides, okay, I'm gonna try and set up with my overhand right another takedown, similar to the Umar fight, and then it's just a little too sloppy. He gets he gets caught with a teep coming in, and then ooh, that one hurt. He shells up, and then it's over. That's how I see it. Or maybe he gets accumulatively teeped, similar to the fifth round in the first fight. Either way, I just see it being a teep. I think those nasty teeps to the liver, Sean O'Malley, I mean, compared to like Sean Strickland's, who just kind of pushes you with it, Sean O'Malley stabs the liver. He stabs the stomach. He stabs that abs, those abs those like tank machine abs that Merab has. Okay, I'm not glazing. Okay, the way I'm talking about Merab is like it's like I've like it's like I am Aljamain Sterling. Like this guy's like my best friend and or whatever, and it's like I'm like, oh my gosh, no, I don't take this rematch, please, no. Like I'm like Aljamain Sterling, and I see some holes, and I'm like, please, no, fight Piotr or something. But no, I don't mean to glaze that hard. Like Merab is one of my favorite fighters. I ever since even the Marlon Moraes fight, like that. I haven't watched UFC forever, so Marlon Moraes was the first time I saw Merab Dvalishvili, that fight. But man, he's always been a machine. He's always been one of my favorite fighters, and it's very pleasing to finally see people come around to saying he's the GOAT, saying he's an entertaining fighter. But man, I just see the stars aligning here. People are counting O'Malley out again. He's again a 3-4 to 1 underdog, something like that. It's Merab is 34, almost 35. Around that time is when it's time for these long reigning champions or long reigning greats of the sport to go down, and I think he will. That's all I'm gonna say on that now. I mean, I really hope it doesn't happen. Anyways, no more glaze. Merab, at the end of the day, he's just a fighter. Sean O'Malley's a fighter. We're all human. I think that he's even though he's a machine and he's got a better cardio than any of us, I think that even despite that, you can't take that many teeps and be okay. We saw that. He literally admitted to it, I think, in a recent interview or a recent, I think it was either embedded or a recent interview. He was saying, oh, 2 more teeps, couple more teeps, and it would have been a problem. What does that mean, Merab? A problem? Would you shell up? That's not good. I'm sorry, I can't pick you when you're saying all these things. Like, it's too many too many green lights for me to pick Sean here. That's all I can say on that. Thank you so much for watching. Mask of MMA out.